Welcome, FNews57 here. Once again, I'm back on my Xbox One. I do apologize if I sound a little different. I'm feeling kind of under the weather today. But I am bringing you yet another video for the game Outriders. Now, this game just released April 1st. It is available on most major game platforms, and it is included with Xbox Game Pass or Game Pass Ultimate. So, in today's video, I am going to be showing you the best way to farm titanium short of expeditions. So we're not going to cover expeditions because that is basically the absolute end game. And if you want to farm this resource, which is the rarest resource and used to upgrade all sorts of epics and legendary gear, and you go through quite a bit of it, you're also going to get an accolade associated with farming this resource. So I'm going to go ahead and show you what the most efficient way that I've been able to find is outside of having a full 3-player team with maxed gear on like Expedition Tier 14. Anyways, in addition to farming the titanium, you will get a very large amount of iron, you'll get a very large amount of leather, and you will get a ton of shards. So every time I do this, I typically average at least 2 to 3 dozen, so somewhere between about 24 to 36 titanium, and it's going to be a little bit different depending upon your gear, your RNG drop rate, and how many epics you get, so what world tier you're playing on. But it's very simple to do, because you're going to get guaranteed titanium. So remember the number 798. For ease of math, we can just round that up to 800. And all we're going to go do is we're going to repeat one specific quest. Now, the quest we're looking for is located in this jungle area, if I go to the quest map. And if you haven't made it to this area yet, and you care about spoilers, I suggest you pause the video. But if you don't care about spoilers, you're going to be looking for this NPC up here. And she will have a quest for you that you can replay if you want. It's a side quest. And it's called Predator to Prey. So, very easy. There's a save fast travel point right here. You simply go up the hill to grab the quest. There's an ammo restock, and the start point for the quest area is actually really, really close. So this is surprisingly a pretty good way to farm XP and world tier progress. I would recommend you do this on the highest world tier that you have unlocked, of which you actually feel you can successfully defeat the monsters. Now, this quest may be a little bit harder to do for certain classes, but pretty much as long as you're not a bullet reflect build devastator, you should be able to do this. And there's going to be like 3 sections that you have to go through. Each section will be nothing but monsters, so you don't really have to worry about any enemies that shoot at you. There's also no flying enemies. But of course you'll have to deal with a ton of enemies that do bleed damage, stagger, and toxin damage. So if you have anomaly resistance, that will help you out. You don't get a whole lot of XP, and surprisingly, the little enemies are actually worth more XP than the maulers are, even on World Tier 14, but they give you a decent amount of World Tier progression. Now, you can do this in co-op if you want, but the more players you have, the more enemies there will be. The more enemies there are, the more drop chances for gear there are, though. But also enemies have increased health, so just bear that in mind. This is only going to be as efficient as you are at killing the enemies. Similar with the expedition farming. The only reason why the expedition farming is more efficient is because if you can speed run it with a group of players, then you just get a massive amount of epic items that you can scrap. But short of doing expeditions, this is the best way that I have found so far to farm titanium, iron, shards, leather, gear, everything. Next up, we're going to have to deal with this crawler, which crawlers can be pretty annoying, but we've got him on easy mode. He'll be more annoying if you're playing in co-op because he has more health and there will be more of the small enemies. Of course, I also am working on a build video since I'm maining the Techromancer, so if you guys bear with me, if you like what you see, then you'll probably enjoy that build video. But I have to get to World Tier 15, level 30, and get all the gear unlocked before I can make my min-max build. Go ahead and murder the crawler. You'll notice that the crawler tends to drop at least 4 items, one of which almost every single time is guaranteed to be titanium. It's usually only a couple titanium. This section is a little bit tricky, just because of the way the enemies spawn. So generally speaking, I like to kind of try and retreat a little bit, since you're going to have to fight, for every player in the lobby, 2 of these alphas. And the alphas are arguably the most annoying thing that we're going to have to fight here due to their stagger. And the stagger is insanely annoying because there's really no way to counter the stagger unless you have a control effect build or you have a control effect player with you. So if you have somebody that's using a control effect like slow or freezing or something of that nature, then you can use that to your advantage. But these guys, they'll pounce on you, they'll stagger you, and then they'll do like that move right there where they do a 3-piece on you. And basically they'll insta-kill you if you're not careful. So you do have to be very careful about those enemies right there. But they always drop a piece of gear. Like I'd say 9 out of 10 times they always drop a piece of gear. And then coming up here, we're going to have to deal with yet another crawler. Which actually the crawler is the easy part. I can start spending some rounds. I'm currently playing with my game audio off, so it's a little hard to tell when the little ads are spawning. But eventually you'll get these little ads that spawn, kill them first, and then you'll have to deal with another alpha. Don't really worry about the crawler too much. If you have a turret, the turret will usually keep the crawler busy. Otherwise, let the player with the highest single target damage focus on the crawler. And we'll just wait for him to be done with that attack, and then go back to unloading on him. Do watch out because he does anomaly damage. That's one thing that's a little bit broken in this game, is anomaly damage. While there is a specific stat of resistance to anomaly damage, I have yet to find a single piece of gear that has anomaly damage resistance on it. So that's why, unless you find a piece of gear that has that stat on there, if you're playing, you'll tend to notice that, like, status effects, burn, bleed, freeze, everything of that nature, toxin, all of those things just do a ridiculous amount of damage. Next up, we're going to have technically the hardest part of this fight. But you can kind of make it easy, and you could use the cryo turret if you wanted. You have to fight this boss dude. This boss monster here. And the main trick to fighting him is to kind of think of him as a mutated bull. And we can keep running him around these 2 little islands. So the trick that I've found, especially when playing solo, we have to really try to avoid his wild charge ability. Now, when he's using that wild charge ability, he actually cannot move sideways. So he's relatively easy to dodge. It's when he's walking after you normally and then does that, like, pounce. That's where you're going to have trouble, because immediately after the pounce, he does that attack that you just seen, that area of effect attack, and it's almost enough to insta-kill you, especially if you're playing a squishy class like myself. So it might take you a couple tries, just depending on the order that he actually uses the abilities in, and whether or not you get lucky, because you can't outrun him. Like, the dude walking is faster than you are running. But you can kind of loop him around. Normally, I would recommend saving blighted rounds. Unfortunately, I used my blighted rounds a little bit early. So this is going to be not something that works towards my advantage. Got to get out of that area, because every time he attacks, he applies a status effect, which again is anomaly damage. But we've got him right where we want him now. A lot of times when you're running him around these corners and stuff, he'll kind of get stuck on the corners, which really works to our advantage. And then eventually you'll get these little maulers that spawn. And if you run a infinite ammo build, or if you've copied my build, then you can use those to your advantage. But normally, you wouldn't activate your anomaly rounds until these guys spawn for the first time. Otherwise, if you activate your anomaly rounds early, you need to make sure that you have enough anomaly ammunition left that you can actually get a kill. This way we can get more anomaly ammo. So, just like that, I use that dude to get some more anomaly rounds. And I'll go back to unloading. From full health, without really playing around with the enemy, generally about 50 rounds is enough for me. If you're in a really tight situation, of course you can use your heal. If you're a class that doesn't have a heal, it can be a little bit more difficult. I would say Devastator would probably be the class that would have the most difficulty doing this. And eventually those ads are just going to continue to spawn and pile up. You can kill them, get ammo back. You don't want to leave very many of them alive. Their attacks do a lot of damage. Plus, you don't want to be distracted and then have this big old Tyrannus jerk. He'll sometimes, like, most of the time he'll ignore you. Kind of like he's doing right now. He's just, you know, playing nice and chilling. But sometimes he'll just go after you randomly. So you have to be very careful with that. And of course, everything here does, like I said, status effect damage. But then you can get all the stuff that he drops. He always drops like minimum 2 to 3 drops of titanium. And it's anywhere from like 7 to 20 titanium at a time. And then he normally drops like 2 to 4 pieces of gear as well. He drops a lot of stuff. But then again, he's like a side quest boss, so it kind of makes sense that he would drop a bunch of stuff. And then you go back. You can grab ammo if you need to restock. That's up to you. And just turn this quest in again. Instead of abandoning the quest, it does take a few extra seconds to turn it in. But you'll get another loot drop. Most of the time it is rare. But sometimes you can get epics. I don't know if you can ever get a legendary as the reward. I've never had a legendary, and I've only had an epic about 4 times out of the times that I've done this. But as you can see, you make good world tier progress, decent XP progress. And now let's check out what we got. So we did get a new epic assault rifle. We'll scrap that. We got a new pistol, which that's okay. So we'll scrap the old pistol. And if you look, I was at 800 titanium, so just raw titanium. I've got 27 raw titanium. We'll take a look at the epics, if I have any new epics. Because I didn't have any new epics before. Just make sure when you're doing this that you're not accidentally scrapping epics that, you might want. So keep that in mind. Like that one I do kind of want, so I'll save that epic. And this one I definitely don't want. So we'll go ahead and scrap those. And you'll see that the epics, especially the higher level epics, are worth even more titanium. So I got 27 titanium base, and then I got another 37 titanium from scrapping my epics that I got. And one of the epics that I got, I didn't even scrap. Off of that run, I just got 64 titanium. So when I said minimum, like 2 to 3 dozen titanium, that's just base raw titanium. That is not including what you get from scrapping the epics. Obviously, if you're doing this at a low level and a low world tier, you may not get as many epics, and the epics that you do get will not be worth as much titanium. And then if you scrap the gear that you don't want, that will give you leather and iron and give you shards, plus you can get the mods and stuff for your collection. Which, as I mentioned earlier, for those of you who are hunting the accolades, there are accolades that apply to like collecting so much titanium. Here we have the Titanium Prospector. At the end level, you have to get 2,500 titanium, which using this method would actually be fairly easy to do so. And then, of course, you can go back to camp and use that titanium to upgrade your gear. Hopefully you guys enjoyed the video. If you have any questions about farming or anything else in the game, just feel free to ask. I will always do my best to help you out. Assuming you did enjoy the video, do me a massive favor, smash that like button, and of course subscribe for more content. Until next time, stay frosty.